My wife just told her sister she should have had kids with someone more successful, right in front of me, at a baby shower, while I'm holding a gift I paid for. The words hit me like a freight train, but I kept my face neutral. Years of dealing with difficult clients taught me that much. My wife was leaning close to her sister, thinking the music and chatter would cover her voice. She was wrong. I mean, look at this beautiful nursery, she whispered, gesturing around the perfectly decorated room. If I'd married someone with real ambition, maybe I could afford something like this for our future kids. Her sister glanced at me nervously. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? It's true. I settled, and now I'm paying for it. When we start trying for kids, they'll have to make do with hand-me-downs and secondhand everything. I stood there, pretending to admire the baby clothes display while my 15-year marriage crumbled in real time. The irony wasn't lost on me that she was complaining about my income while wearing the designer dress I'd surprised her with last month. The same woman who quit her job 2 years ago because she needed to focus on herself was calling me unsuccessful. The party continued around us. Aunts cooed over tiny socks, cousins compared parenting apps, and I watched my wife play the perfect supportive sister-in-law. She laughed at jokes, helped serve cake, and complimented everyone's outfits. The same mouth that had just destroyed our marriage was now asking someone where they got their adorable diaper bag. When her brother-in-law started talking about his promotion at the engineering firm, I saw my wife's eyes light up with that look. The one I used to think was admiration, but now recognized as hunger. She hung on every word about his salary increase, the company car, the stock options. That's amazing, she gushed. Your family is so lucky to have someone who really provides. The emphasis on really was subtle but unmistakable. I excused myself to get some air. Outside, I found myself thinking about our mortgage payments. The ones I've never missed in 12 years. The vacation to Europe she'd begged for last summer, which I'd made happen by working overtime for 3 months. The engagement ring she still wore, the one that took me 6 months to save for when I was making a quarter of what I make now. But apparently, none of that mattered. I wasn't successful enough for her standards. Standards she'd conveniently developed after years of benefiting from my stability. My phone buzzed. A text from my neighbor asking if I could help move furniture tomorrow. I almost laughed. Here I was, the guy everyone calls when they need something fixed, moved, or handled, but my own wife thinks I'm not ambitious enough. When I walked back inside, she was showing off photos of a house her college friend just bought. Look at this kitchen island, she was telling the group. This is what I'm talking about when I say some people really know how to live. She caught my eye and smiled that bright, public smile she'd perfected. The same smile she'd probably use tomorrow when she pretended this conversation never happened. The gift opening session started, and I watched her sister unwrap stroller after expensive stroller, each one prompting more whispered calculations from my wife about what they must have cost. She was literally taking notes on her phone about baby registry prices. We should start thinking about our list, she murmured to me during a lull. I just nodded. What was I supposed to say? That I'd heard her real opinion about having kids with someone like me? That I now knew she saw our potential children as some kind of financial disappointment before they were even conceived? The drive home was quiet. She scrolled through Pinterest, saving nursery designs that cost more than most people's cars. I focused on the road and tried to process what I'd learned about my marriage. That was nice, she finally said. Really makes you think about our future. I almost asked what future she was talking about. The one where she's embarrassed by our life, or the imaginary one where she'd married someone else. Instead, I just said, yeah, really makes you think. She went to bed early, claiming a headache. I sat in my home office, looking at the financial spreadsheets that track every penny of our supposedly inadequate life. The emergency fund I'd built. The retirement accounts I'd maxed out. The life insurance policy that would take care of her if something happened to me. All apparently meaningless because I wasn't successful enough to meet her new standards. I closed the laptop and made myself a decision. Tomorrow, I'd start paying very close attention to what my wife really thought about our marriage. Tonight's revelation was probably just the tip of the iceberg. After 15 years together, I was finally going to meet the real woman I'd married. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. Made coffee, asked about my day, even suggested we grab lunch together later. Pure theater. I decided to give her exactly what she expected. Silence. Not the cold shoulder, not passive aggression. Just careful, calculated observation while maintaining my normal routine. You've been quiet since yesterday, she said over breakfast. Everything okay? Just thinking about work stuff. I replied, which wasn't technically a lie. I was thinking about a lot of things, including how someone who hadn't worked in 2 years felt qualified to judge my career. She nodded sympathetically. Don't stress too much about it. We're doing fine. Fine. That was her public assessment. Privately, according to yesterday's confession, we were apparently living in disappointing mediocrity. Over the next few days, I started noticing things I'd previously dismissed, like how she always found excuses to avoid neighborhood gatherings where other wives might ask about her job, or how she'd get that pinched expression whenever I mentioned work projects, as if my enthusiasm about solving problems was somehow embarrassing. Wednesday evening, her college roommate called. I was reading in the living room while she talked in the kitchen, but voices carry in our house. I know, right? Some people just have it figured out, she was saying. Look at you and David. That new house, the kids in private school. Meanwhile, I'm over here trying to convince myself that being practical is enough. Practical. That's what I'd become. A practical choice she was trying to convince herself to accept. No, he's a good guy, she continued. Stable, reliable, all those things. But sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd waited for someone with more drive. Someone who really wanted to build something bigger. I set down my book, 15 Years of Marriage, and she was talking about me like I was a consolation prize. The good guy she'd settled for while dreaming of something better. Maybe it's not too late, her friend apparently suggested, because my wife laughed nervously. Don't be ridiculous. I'm not going anywhere. I guess I thought he'd be more ambitious by now. Want more out of life. I wanted plenty out of life. I wanted a wife who respected me enough not to trash me to her friends. Apparently, that was asking too much. Thursday, she brought up the baby conversation again. We were watching TV when she casually mentioned that her sister's nursery probably cost $20,000. Can you imagine spending that much on one room? She asked. Seems excessive, I said. Well, I guess when money isn't an issue, you can afford to go all out. She paused meaningfully. Some people are just in different situations. I kept watching the screen. She was testing me, seeing if I'd take the bait and defend our financial situation. Instead, I just nodded. Different priorities, too, I said. Some people prefer showing off. Others prefer having actual savings. She shifted uncomfortably, because she knew I was right, and she knew I knew about our very healthy emergency fund. But that didn't fit her narrative about marrying beneath her potential. Friday brought the real revelation. She thought I was at the gym, but I'd forgotten my water bottle and came back early. She was on the phone with someone, pacing around the kitchen. I'm not saying I don't love him, she was explaining. But love doesn't pay for the life I want. And honestly, at this point, I'm just hoping he gets more motivated before we have kids. Because I refuse to raise children in this kind of limitation. Limitation. Our 3-bedroom house in a good neighborhood was a limitation. The reliable income that paid for her yoga classes and shopping trips was inadequate. The man who'd never let her worry about a single bill was disappointing. Maybe I should push him more, she continued. Give him some motivation to step up. Men need that sometimes, right? A little pressure to reach their potential. She was strategizing about how to manipulate me into becoming the husband she wished she'd found. Not because she wanted me to be happy or fulfilled, but because my current success level embarrassed her. I stood in the hallway for another minute, listening to her detail her dissatisfaction with our life. When she started talking about maybe taking a girl's trip to clear her head and think about things, I quietly left again. That evening, she was extra affectionate, cooked my favorite dinner, asked about my day with unusual interest, even suggested we start looking at baby books together. I've been thinking, she said over dessert. Maybe we should be more intentional about planning our future, setting bigger goals. What kind of goals? Well, like your career. Maybe it's time to take some risks, you know? Apply for bigger positions, really put yourself out there. I nodded thoughtfully. Interesting timing for that suggestion. Something flickered in her expression. What do you mean? Nothing specific. Just noticed you've been thinking a lot about success and ambition lately. She recovered quickly. I just want us to reach our full potential. Both of us. Right? Our potential. The weekend arrived, and she announced she wanted to visit her sister again. Just to help with some baby prep, she said. You don't mind staying home, do you? I minded plenty of things, but her visiting her sister wasn't one of them. Go ahead. I'll catch up on some projects. What I actually did was think. and plan, because I'd learned enough over the past week to understand exactly who I was married to and exactly how she really felt about our life together. She wanted more ambition. She was about to see just how strategic I could be when properly motivated. Sunday afternoon, my phone started ringing. First my mother-in-law, then my brother-in-law, then my wife's cousin, all within 20 minutes. I was replacing the kitchen faucet when the call started. My wife was still at her sister's place, supposedly helping organize baby clothes. The first call, I ignored. The second made me curious. By the third, I knew something had happened. My mother-in-law's voicemail was short and confused. "Honey, can you call me back? I think there might be some kind of misunderstanding with some messages we received." My brother-in-law was more direct. "Dude, what the hell is going on? Did you hear what happened in the family group chat?" I didn't even know there was a family group chat. Before I could call anyone back, my wife burst through the front door, face flushed and phone pressed to her ear. "Mom, please, just delete them," she was saying frantically. "It was a mistake. They weren't supposed to. No, don't listen to them again." She saw me standing there with my wrench and froze. "I'll call you back," she whispered into the phone and hung up. "Everything okay?" I asked calmly. "There's been a technical issue," she said quickly. "My sister accidentally, her phone malfunctioned and sent some old voice messages to the family group. Nothing important." "What kind of voice messages?" She started crying. Right there in the doorway, full waterworks. They were taken out of context. I was just venting to her about stupid stuff. Everyone does that. My phone rang again. This time I answered. "Hey." My sister-in-law's voice was uncomfortable. "Look, I need to tell you something. I was trying to forward a voice message to my mom about the baby shower photos, and I accidentally selected the family group instead. But the messages that went out, they weren't about photos." I looked at my wife, who was shaking her head frantically. "What messages?" I asked. "The ones from today, where she was talking about you, and about the marriage." "I'm so sorry. I had no idea she felt that way." My wife grabbed for my phone. I stepped back. "Can you forward them to me?" I asked. "I don't think that's a good idea," my sister-in-law said. "Maybe you two should just talk." "Forward them," I repeated. My wife ran upstairs. I heard the bedroom door slam. 3 minutes later, my phone chimed with message notifications. 7 voice messages, ranging from 30 seconds to 2 minutes each. All from my wife to her sister, all sent between noon and 2 p.m. today. I listened to them in chronological order. Message 1. "Ugh, I can't take this anymore. Sitting in this gorgeous house, looking at everything they have, and then going home to our basic little life. I'm literally embarrassed to tell people where we live." Message 2. "I know you think I'm being dramatic, but I'm serious about the kids thing. How can I bring children into this situation? They be the poor kids in their class. The ones whose dad drives a used car and whose mom has to shop sales." Message 3 was the one that made my hands shake. "I've been thinking about what you said about second chances. I mean, I'm only 32. It's not like I'm stuck forever. Divorce isn't the end of the world anymore, right? People start over all the time." Message 4. "Don't look at me like that. I'm not evil for wanting more. I gave him 15 years to figure it out, to show some real ambition. At what point do I stop waiting for him to become the man I need him to be?" Message 5 was about our potential children again, but worse. "I refuse to have kids who have to explain why their family can't afford things other families can. I grew up with money. I know what it's like to not worry about anything. I can't do the struggling mom thing." Messages 6 and 7 were her strategizing about how to either motivate me to level up or exit gracefully before we complicate things with children. I sat in my kitchen, surrounded by the tools I'd been using to improve our home, listening to my wife plan my replacement. My phone rang. My mother-in-law again. "Sweetie, I don't understand what's happening," she said when I answered. "Those messages, that's not the girl I raised. Is she having some kind of breakdown?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I just heard them myself. She's always seemed so happy with you. So grateful for how stable and dependable you are. I don't understand where this is coming from. Stable and dependable. Even her own mother saw me as the reliable choice, not the exciting one. Has she talked to you about being unhappy?" I asked. "Never. Not once. If anything, she's always bragged about you. About the house, the security, how well you take care of her. Bragged to her family while complaining to her sister. 2 different versions of our marriage for 2 different audiences." My wife appeared at the bottom of the stairs, eyes red and puffy. Who are you talking to? She asked. Your mother. She looked like she might faint. Can I talk to her? I handed her the phone and went outside. I needed air and space to process what I'd just learned. Not just that she was unhappy, but that she'd been systematically planning our divorce while pretending everything was fine. Through the kitchen window, I could see her pacing, gesturing frantically as she tried to explain herself to her mother. Whatever she was saying wasn't working. Her mom's voice was loud enough to hear through the glass, though I couldn't make out words. My phone buzzed with texts from various family members. Most were supportive, some were confused, all were shocked. Her uncle even sent a message saying he'd always thought I was too good for her. 20 minutes later, she came outside. I can explain, she started. No need, I said. It was pretty clear. Those were just feelings. Everyone has complicated feelings about their life sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. Planning our divorce doesn't mean anything. I wasn't planning anything. I was just processing. For how long? She looked confused. How long have you been processing? Because that didn't sound like a new conversation. She couldn't answer that because we both knew the truth. This wasn't a recent development or a moment of weakness. This was who she'd been for months, maybe years. The whole family heard it. I said quietly, your parents, your brother, your cousins. Everyone knows exactly how you feel about our marriage. They'll understand. Families forgive. Will they? Because your mom seemed pretty disappointed in the person you've become. That hit harder than anything else I could have said, because she cared more about her family's opinion than mine. We can fix this, she said desperately. We can go to counseling, figure out how to communicate better. I looked at her standing there, still trying to manage the situation instead of owning it. The problem isn't communication, I said. The problem is that you've been planning to leave me while pretending to love me. And now everyone knows it. Monday evening, her parents requested a family meeting. Not asked, requested. The kind of formal language that meant someone was about to face consequences. My wife spent the entire day trying to prepare her defense. I watched her practice explanations in the mirror, saw her typing and deleting text messages to various family members. She was treating this like a PR crisis instead of the moment her character got exposed. You don't have to come, she said as we got ready to leave. This is really between me and my family. Actually, your dad specifically asked me to be there, I replied. Said he wanted to hear from both of us. Her face went pale. She'd been hoping to control the narrative without me present. The drive to her parents' house was silent. She kept checking her phone, probably hoping for supportive messages that weren't coming. When we arrived, the entire family was already there. Parents, brother, sister-in-law, even her grandmother who rarely left her apartment. This wasn't a casual gathering. Her father directed us to the living room where everyone was sitting in what felt like a semicircle. My wife and I got the chairs facing everyone else. Like a tribunal. Before we start, her mother said, I want to make something clear. We all heard those messages. Multiple times. So nobody's going to pretend this didn't happen or that we misunderstood. My wife opened her mouth to speak, but her father held up his hand. You'll get your turn, he said. First, I want to hear from the man who's been part of this family for 15 years. All eyes turned to me. I'd been dreading this moment and looking forward to it in equal measure. I don't have much to say, I began. The messages speak for themselves. But I will say this. Everything your daughter complained about, everything she called inadequate or embarrassing, I've provided willingly and proudly for 15 years. I looked around the room at faces I'd known since I was 22. The house she's ashamed of? I've never missed a mortgage payment. The car she thinks is embarrassing? It's paid off, reliable, and safe. The lifestyle she calls limiting? It includes yearly vacations, a full pantry, and zero debt except the mortgage. My wife shifted uncomfortably. But here's what really bothers me, I continued. It's not that she wants more. It's that she's been lying to all of you about how she feels, while planning our divorce behind my back. Her grandmother spoke up first. Is that true? Were you planning to leave him? It's complicated, my wife started. No, her father interrupted. It's not complicated. We heard you talking about second chances and exit strategies. Were you planning to divorce him or not? I was just exploring options. While he was home fixing your kitchen faucet, her brother added. Real classy. The room felt quiet. Her sister-in-law, the one who'd accidentally sent the messages, looked mortified. I need to ask something, her mother said to me. Has she ever talked to you about being unhappy? Have you had any idea she felt this way? Never directly, I answered honestly. But looking back, there were signs. She'd get that look when other people talked about their success. She'd make comments about what we could afford versus what others could afford. What kind of comments? Her father asked. My wife shot me a warning look, but I was done protecting her image. Like at the baby shower last week. She told her sister she should have had kids with someone more successful. While I was standing right there holding a gift I'd bought. The collective intake of breath was audible. Her grandmother actually gasped. You said that, her mother asked. At your sister's baby shower? It wasn't. I didn't mean it exactly like that. How exactly did you mean it? Her father's voice was getting dangerous. Because it sounds like you insulted your husband publicly at a family celebration. I was just frustrated. Sometimes I say things when I'm frustrated. You say things like planning to divorce him and calling your marriage a limitation? Her brother asked. That's what you do when you're frustrated. The attack was coming from all sides now. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. Let me ask you something, her grandmother said, her voice sharp despite her age. What exactly do you contribute to this marriage that makes you think you deserve better? The question hung in the air like a bomb. I contribute plenty, my wife said defensively. Like what? Her grandmother pressed. You don't work. You don't pay bills. You don't even do the home repairs. So what makes you think you're settling? I manage the household. Her sister-in-law laughed bitterly. You mean you spend his money and complain about not having more of it? That's not fair. What's not fair? Her father said, standing up. Is that man working for 15 years to give you a good life, while you secretly plan to leave him for someone with more money? The room erupted. Her mother started crying. Her brother called her selfish. Her grandmother muttered something about being raised better than this. Through it all, I sat quietly and watched my wife realize that her family wasn't going to support her version of events. You want to know what's really disappointing? Her father continued. It's not that you're unhappy. People get unhappy. It's that you're a liar. You lied to him, you lied to us, and you lied to yourself about what kind of person you are. Dad, please. No, you don't get to dad please me. This man has been nothing but good to you, good to this family, and good to your mother and me. And you repay him by shopping for his replacement. Her mother stood up and walked over to me. I owe you an apology, she said. I raised her better than this. Or I thought I did. You don't owe me anything, I replied. Yes, I do. Because I'm ashamed of what she's become, and you deserve better from this family. My wife finally broke down completely. I never meant for any of this to happen. I love him. I do. No, her grandmother said firmly. You love what he provides. You love the security and the stability. But you don't love him enough to respect him. The meeting ended with her family making their position clear. They supported me, not her. They were disgusted by her behavior and disappointed in who she'd become. The drive home was brutal. She cried, apologized, and begged for forgiveness. But the damage was done, and we both knew it. Your own family turned against you, I said as we pulled into our driveway. They'll come around. Families always do. Will they? Because your dad looked at you like he didn't recognize you, and your grandmother called you a liar to your face. They're just upset. They'll forgive me. Maybe. But I won't. She turned to look at me, panic in her eyes. What does that mean? It means this marriage is over. The only question now is how we end it. Tuesday morning, I took the day off work. Not to talk or reconcile or attend couples therapy. To handle business. My wife woke up hoping yesterday was some kind of nightmare we could move past. She made coffee, started talking about how we could rebuild trust, mentioned seeing a counselor. Before we discuss anything, I said, we need to address some practical matters. What kind of practical matters? I pulled out a folder I'd prepared the night before. 15 years of documentation. First, let's talk about our joint credit cards. The ones where you're an authorized user, not a primary holder. Her face changed as she realized this wasn't a relationship conversation. I called this morning and had you removed from all accounts. The cards in your wallet are now inactive. You can't do that. Actually, I can, since I'm the primary holder and you contribute zero income to pay them off. I opened the folder and pulled out the first sheet. Here's your spending from last month alone. Yoga classes, $200. Lunch with friends, $350. Shopping at Target, $180. Sephora, $220. Total discretionary spending, $950. She stared at the numbers. Compare that to my discretionary spending. $60 for coffee and $40 for lunch twice. 100 total. This is ridiculous. We're married. That's our money. Correction. It's my money that I've shared with you. There's a difference. I pulled out the next document. Second item. The joint checking account. I've opened a new personal account and redirected my direct deposit. The joint account now has exactly $0 in it. You're being cruel. I'm being practical. You want to see what limitation really looks like? Let's explore that. The third document was the one that made her sit down. This is our mortgage statement. Notice that only my name is on the loan. You're on the deed as my spouse, but you have no legal obligation to pay and no rights if we divorce. What are you saying? I'm saying that if you want out of this marriage, you need to understand what out actually means. I kept going methodically through each item. The car insurance policy where she was a secondary driver on my vehicles. The health insurance through my employer. The retirement accounts in my name that she'd assumed she was entitled to half of. Here's what's really interesting, I said, pulling out a timeline I'd created. I found text messages on our phone bill going back 8 months. Hundreds of texts between you and your sister about your dissatisfaction with our marriage. Her eyes widened. This wasn't a recent decision or a moment of weakness. You've been planning this for most of a year. I showed her printed screenshots of the phone records. March 15th, 47 texts to your sister in one day. March 20th, 62 texts. April 2nd, 39 texts. Want to guess what we were doing on those days? She didn't answer. March 15th was our anniversary dinner. March 20th was when I surprised you with the weekend getaway to Napa. April 2nd was when I brought you flowers just because. You can't prove what those texts were about. I don't need to prove anything. The voice messages did that already. My phone rang. Her mother. Hi. I answered, putting it on speaker. I was hoping you'd call. Honey, I wanted to check on you. And to tell you that your father-in-law and I have been talking. My wife tensed. We think you should know that she's been complaining about your marriage for months. Not just to her sister. To us too. Mom, my wife whispered. Don't mom me. You told me in June that you felt like you'd married too young and missed opportunities. You asked me what I thought about people who got divorced in their 30s. I looked at my wife, who was staring at the table. You've been testing this idea with everyone, I said. Your sister, your parents, probably your friends too. I was just working through feelings. No, you were building a case for leaving while making sure you had support and validation. Her mother's voice came through the speaker again. There's something else you should know. She asked us last month if we thought she'd be able to find someone better if she were single again. The room went dead silent. She what? I asked. She wanted to know if we thought she was still attractive enough, young enough, to land what she called a Real catch if she started over. My wife started crying again, but this time it felt different. Less desperate, more defeated. Thanks for telling me, I said to her mother. You deserve to know who you're really married to. After she hung up, we sat in silence for several minutes. So, I finally said, this has been a long-term project for you. I never acted on anything. You never had to. You were gathering intelligence, building support, and testing the waters. The only thing you didn't do was actually file papers. I closed the folder and looked at her directly. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to move in with your sister while we figure out the divorce details. You're going to get a job, because your days of being supported by someone you're embarrassed by are over. Where am I supposed to work? I haven't had a job in 2 years. That's your problem to solve. You're an adult who's been living consequence-free for too long. You're being vindictive. I'm being logical. You want out. Fine. But you don't get to keep the benefits of being married to someone you consider inadequate. She tried one more approach. What if I changed? What if I got therapy and worked on my issues? Your issues aren't mental health problems. Your issues are character flaws. You're selfish, dishonest, and disloyal. Therapy doesn't fix that. Everyone makes mistakes. Planning to leave your husband while pretending to love him isn't a mistake. It's a betrayal, and betrayal doesn't get a second chance. I stood up and handed her a business card. Divorce attorney. Already spoke with him. He's expecting your call. You already hired a lawyer? I hired the best divorce lawyer in town. The one who's going to make sure you understand exactly what leaving me costs. She looked at the card like it was a death sentence. This isn't how I wanted things to end. Then you shouldn't have spent 8 months planning exactly this ending. By evening, she was packing. Her sister came to pick her up, avoiding eye contact with me the entire time. As they loaded her things into the car, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. 6 months later, the divorce was final. She got exactly what she deserved. Nothing. My lawyer was everything I'd hoped for. Ruthless, thorough, and completely unsympathetic to sob stories about wives who'd made mistakes. When she tried to claim spousal support, he presented the voice messages as evidence of premeditated abandonment. The judge wasn't impressed with her argument that she deserved half of everything despite contributing nothing and planning to leave anyway. She got her personal belongings and her car, which I'd been paying for. Everything else stayed with me. The house, the retirement accounts, the savings she'd called inadequate. Turns out that inadequate savings account was worth more than she'd realized. Funny how someone who'd never seen the investment statements had no idea what we were actually worth. Her family stopped speaking to her entirely after she tried to blame me for financial abuse when the money got cut off. Her own mother called her delusional. The best part? She had to get a job at a department store. Customer service, minimum wage, 40 hours a week. The same woman who'd complained about my success was now asking people if they wanted to apply for store credit cards. Her sister told mutual friends that she tried dating but kept comparing every man to what I'd provided. Apparently, discovering that most men her age weren't willing to financially support a woman with no job skills came as quite a shock. Meanwhile, I thrived. Turns out, not supporting someone who despised your efforts freed up significant resources. I renovated the house, bought a new truck, took the vacation to Japan I'd always wanted. The neighborhood women started paying attention in ways they never had when I was married. Amazing how attractive stability becomes when it's not being taken for granted. Last week, she called. First time since the divorce was finalized. I made a mistake, she said. I realize that now. Congratulations on your moment of clarity. I was wondering if we could talk. Maybe work things out. I laughed. Actually laughed. You want to work things out now that you've discovered what your options actually are? I've learned from this experience. What you've learned is that the grass isn't greener. That's not the same as growth. Please, I know I was wrong about everything. You were wrong about me, wrong about our marriage, and wrong about your own value in the dating market. But mostly, you were wrong about thinking I'd be sitting here waiting for you to come back. You're seeing someone? That's none of your business anymore. I just thought. You thought I'd be the same desperate guy you left behind. Here's your reality check. I'm better off without you. Happier, richer, and completely uninterested in giving you another opportunity to disrespect me. That's not fair. Fair was 15 years of marriage to someone who supported your dreams. Fair was never making you worry about money or security. You didn't want fair. You wanted better. Hope you found it. I hung up and blocked her number. 3 days later, her sister called to tell me she'd been crying for hours after our conversation. Good, I said. Maybe now she understands what loss actually feels like. Some people deserve second chances. Others deserve to live with their choices. She chose to view me as inadequate while planning my replacement. Now she gets to live with the consequences of that choice. Meanwhile, I'm building the life I want with someone who appreciates what I bring to the table. Turns out the problem was never my ambition. It was her character. And character flaws don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve consequences.